Here's a question nobody asks at weddings. Who invented marriage? Not metaphorically, literally. Who came up with the idea that two people should make a formal, public, legally binding commitment to each other for life? Because if you zoom out far enough in human history, that idea is surprisingly recent. For most of the time our species has existed, there was no marriage, no ceremony, no ring, no contract. And yet humans were forming relationships, having children, building families, living together. So what exactly were they doing? And what does it tell us about why modern relationships are so complicated? Picture a hunter-gatherer band, 20 to 50 people, moving constantly, everything shared: food, fire, space, childcare. In this world, relationships didn't exist in isolation. They existed inside the community. There were no private households, no separate dinner tables for couples, no locked doors. Everyone knew everyone, and everyone had a stake in everyone else's choices. Relationships in this world were not just about two people, they were community events. If two people started spending time together, eating together, sleeping near each other, the whole band noticed. And the whole band had opinions. Elders weighed in. Families considered the resource implications. The community functioned as a social contract that governed behavior in ways no law could. There were rules, they were just unwritten. So why did humans pair up at all? Because pairing was useful, specifically in three ways. First, childcare. Human babies are extraordinarily dependent. For an extraordinarily long time, one parent alone cannot do it. Two, especially with community support, dramatically improved infant survival. Second, resource sharing. A hunter and a gatherer together are more nutritionally stable than either alone. A man who hunts and a woman who forages have complementary skills and food sources. Pairing made metabolic sense. Third, protection. In a world of predators and rival tribes, a bonded pair with community ties was safer than a solo individual, so humans developed pair bonds, strong, emotionally meaningful bonds that included attachment, affection, jealousy, and grief. These feelings are biologically real and ancient. But here's the thing. These bonds didn't require ceremony. They didn't require witnesses or documents. They formed the way animal pair bonds often form, through proximity, cooperation, shared resources, and time. The biology of attachment doesn't need a ring, it needs consistency. What relationships were for, 5:30 to 8:30. Here's where it gets really interesting. In ancient societies, the primary question a relationship had to answer wasn't, are we in love? It was, does this work? Does this pair contribute to the group? Can they cooperate? Can they feed their children? Are they stable? Do they add value to the community or drain it? Romantic love, the overwhelming, all-consuming feeling we now treat as the foundation of a relationship, was real in the ancient world. But it was not the point. In fact, anthropologists point out that in most traditional societies throughout history, letting romantic love drive relationship decisions was considered somewhat reckless. You married, or paired, based on compatibility, resources, family alignment, and community approval. Romantic love was something that might develop over time, or might not, and that was considered normal. The idea that you should feel passionate, overwhelming love before pairing, and that this love should be the primary reason for the relationship, is genuinely revolutionary. And historically, it's about 200 years old. So when did marriage actually appear, and why? The answer is agriculture. When humans settled into farming communities around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, something changed fundamentally. People began accumulating things: land, animals, grain stores, tools, wealth, in the ancient sense. And wealth needs to go somewhere when you die, which means you need to know who your children are, which means you need to know who slept with whom. Marriage in its earliest forms was largely about property and paternity. It was a contract between families, not between two individuals, that established who was responsible for whom and who inherited what. Romance was barely mentioned in the earliest marriage contracts found in ancient Mesopotamia. They read more like business agreements. Then came political marriages, alliances between kingdoms sealed by the marriage of their children. the feelings of the people involved were largely irrelevant. It wasn't until the 18th and 19th century, with the rise of individualism and Romantic-era literature, that the idea of marrying for love became widely accepted as a reason, let alone the primary reason, for marriage. Romantic love as the basis for marriage is a social experiment that's been running for about 200 years, so here we are today. And the expectations we place on a single romantic partner are extraordinary. We expect them to be our best friend, our emotional support, our co-parent, our financial partner, our intellectual equal, our physical attraction, our adventure companion, our therapist substitute, our home builder. Oh, and also deeply, passionately in love with us, forever. Historian Stephanie Kuntz has pointed out that we are asking one person to provide what an entire village used to provide: the emotional needs, the economic partnership, the social belonging, the childcare network, the friendship, all of it, from one person, who we also fell in love with, based entirely on feeling. No wonder relationships are under pressure. Ancient humans didn't put this weight on a single relationship because they couldn't. The relationship existed inside a community that shared the load. Here's the takeaway. The feelings that make relationships worth having, love, attachment, loyalty, jealousy, grief, are ancient. They're wired into us. They predate marriage by millions of years. But the structure we put them in, the institution, the expectations, the idea that one person should be everything, that's new, very new. And understanding that doesn't mean we need to go back to ancient life. It just means we can be a little more compassionate with our partners and with ourselves when the impossible weight of modern relationship expectations becomes visible. Humans were never designed to need only one person. The village still matters, even now. If this changed how you think about relationships, history, or human nature, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.